Businesses. They're everywhere around us. We talk about them daily, and so much of what we do every day depends on their existence. From birth to death, from the time we get up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night, everything we touch has first been touched by a business. You would think that for something that is so seemingly omnipresent and necessary that there would be a lot of interest in it. For some, yes, but in my many years of working in business and teaching on this topic, I find that there are many that have different perspectives about business than my own. Some see business as evil, something that must be battled because businesses are out there to get you. And in some ways, I find this perspective like Don Quixote, that chivalrous dreamer battling windmills and fighting for a just cause against the natural instincts of what businesses are, and that is to be profitable. Others seem to understand the necessity for the existence of businesses, but may also find them to be just a little too complex, like a big machine with a lot of moving gears and parts. You can make out some of the things, but it's so vast and so deep that it all just seems overwhelming. These perceptions about business are completely understandable. Businesses can be complicated, and they can also be without feeling or regard for individual circumstances as well. But just as Don Quixote's idealism led him into trouble, those who dismiss business run the risk of missing out on the life-changing opportunities and benefits that a business can provide, not just for you, but for your loved ones as well. Can business be something that needs to be battled for the greater good? Certainly. Can it also at times be a complex mess of moving parts? Absolutely. This is why it's my ambition that through this podcast, you're going to learn a few things about business, and so will I. Hi, my name is Ben Olmos, and I'll be inviting you to join me along my journey as I start DissedMedia. What is DissedMedia? This is a business that I've been thinking about for some time, and although it's something I've wanted to do for a while, for one reason or another, I just haven't been able to get it going. However, recently I was sitting in my home office reflecting on my career and all the people that I've gotten to know over my many years, and it struck me. All of the things that I thought that I would need to get this business started, the people, the resources, the cost, all of those things really started to snap into focus. I started thinking about the people whom I had met over the course of my career. People who are writers, who are creators, thought leaders, people who are experienced in media. And I started thinking, what if I could bring these people together and pitch them this idea of creating DissedMedia? And the idea for DissedMedia is really based on a few different moving parts that I see happening in the world today. I see there's a group of people out there today, the classic demographic, 25 to 55, but these folks are lifelong learners. They're the kind of people who have high ambition and high skill and are working to try and focus those things to the betterment of their own life and livelihood. They're not necessarily defined by the college they went to. They might not even have gone to college at all. They don't necessarily come from a particular demographic neighborhood, but they are people who just have a strong entrepreneurial spirit. They're wanting to create greater things for themselves. They're seeking their passion through the work that they do, either for the businesses they own or for the industries that they're a part of. They like listening out for new opportunities, new ways of doing things. They don't mind multitasking. They kind of embrace the chaos. They're hard workers, but they're also really trying to prevent themselves from getting burned out. And most of all, they enjoy life. They enjoy experiences. They don't mind saving up a little bit of money to have a great experience, but they also like to have kind of lavish discounts, if you will. They like life hacks. They like to find exclusive bargains. And while I feel like I've identified who this group is, one of the things that I don't necessarily see out there in the kind of environment that I would like to create is a resource and a place where people can come to regularly to satisfy these needs. Now, as you've probably figured out, this is a media business. And the thing about media businesses is there are a lot of them. And people are finicky about their media. They can be turned on and turned off by things instantaneously. But I am taking a little bit of a different and hopefully unique approach to this. First of all, you've found this podcast, which I think is great, and thank you for listening. And from this podcast, I'm going to try and do something that is a little bit different. I think a lot of times when people whom I've described encounter a business, they don't always understand what it took for that business to get to where it is and all that it really took for it to thrive. And the fact of the matter is that businesses are created all the time and businesses fail all the time. And I'll be honest with you, I have no idea whether DissedMedia is going to be a success or a failure. But what I'm going to give you is a front row seat to everything that happens as we not only start this company, but hopefully build it and make it thrive. Through this podcast, I'm going to give you the best opportunity to have a front row seat to everything that we're doing. And the reason I want to do this is I want to help people understand really how to build a business. I want to see that people maybe take from this thoughts and ideas, or maybe understand that, some things are complex and hard, but a lot of this stuff maybe isn't. And maybe this clears things up for some folks who have been thinking about an idea or thinking about a business and helps them start something of their own. Hopefully you're going to learn. You're going to learn from our mistakes, but you're also going to hopefully learn from our successes as well. And I'm going to help walk you guys through every element of starting a business, everything from the very foundation to wherever we end up. So where are we starting on this podcast? Pretty much at zero. Now, I've already given you some perspective on the type of audience that I'm trying to reach. And I've already told you about some of the people that I've collected to try and reach that audience. And as we go on, you're going to hear a lot more about that. But this is a podcast about starting a business. So let me walk you through what I've done so far. Initially, what I did was I sat down and I thought about what I wanted to say to the people I was going to try and recruit towards this. I thought about, what is DissedMedia? What are we trying to accomplish? How is this business going to work? And not only how it's going to work, but how am I going to get people interested in helping me take it to where I feel it could go? Now, for me, I'm always thinking about the so what. And the so what in this instance was, how do I pitch people this idea and not get them to say, well, so what? And I felt the best way to do this is to start giving away pieces of the company. I think a lot of times when people think about starting a company, they think of 100% ownership or maybe a partnership. Sometimes people feel that if a business is going to be a partnership, that there has to be an equal spread across all the people who are participating in the business. And while that is understandable in some cases, in large parts, it's really not the direction that you want to go immediately. You need to think about what everybody is bringing to the table. And yes, my board is bringing a great deal of talent to the table, but so am I. And as founder, CEO, and chief strategist, I need to make sure that everybody is compensated for their contributions, but also that I have room to add compensation later on down the road as the business grows. If I were to split all the shares up immediately and hand them out to everyone immediately, I wouldn't have that option anymore. So before I even had the pitch ready and outlined, what I did was I created my dream team. The team of people that I would want to work with on a board, who I felt had wisdom, talent, insight, skill, that they were going to be able to contribute to this in a way that was necessary for me to establish things. So I created two lists. The first list was the board, and to me that was the most important list, followed by a list of contributors that I think would be helpful once we got things off the ground. Now, for everybody who was serving on the board, they're also, my hope and desire is that they would be contributors as well. And so for this, I was going to give them a percentage ownership of this company. Once I had determined what I thought would be an acceptable offer, I then started to work on the pitch for what DissedMedia was going to be. Now, I have had some insight on how some media companies run, but this is a little bit outside of my realm of expertise, which is why, by the way, I have some folks who are on the board that are going to help me out with this. But I wanted to make sure that as we're thinking about what DissedMedia is going to become, that it's not just a company that you have an ownership stake in, but it's also a company that is going to help those folks who are involved in it be able to promote the things that they're doing as well. A lot of people whom I've invited to be on the board are also entrepreneurs, they're authors, they're speakers, And I want to make sure that DissedMedia becomes something that they can also leverage for their own talents as well. I also want to create a place where DissedMedia takes a different approach to how we compensate content creators, and that's something we'll get into a little bit more, but for now, I was focused on the pitch. I actually spent a few weeks thinking about this pitch. How was I going to present it in a way that was going to resonate with people? And for me, I tend to use PowerPoint as a way to kind of focus my attention and think through the storytelling process. So I started laying out the pitch. I started thinking about, how do I want to lay the foundation for this? How do I want to get people interested? How do I want to demonstrate to them that I recognize what they're bringing to the game here? And I want to make sure that they feel that they are going to buy into something here that is going to help them out long term. So with my dream team assembled and my pitch deck finally created, I tested it out on one of my first board members who, as I was presenting, looked through it. I didn't even go through all the slides. I just kind of focused on a couple slides that I thought would be the most interest to them, and they were in. And I came away feeling really good about that. I felt like, this was probably one person that I wasn't sure. And for me, I felt like they were going to be a very important part of it. But not only were they in, but they've also said that they're very excited to see where this goes. So with that confidence, I decided to review the pitch again, refine it a little bit more, and send it out to the second person who I felt was going to be really important. Now, this isn't to say that everybody isn't important, because everybody who's helping me out with this absolutely is. But this is a person who I had been working with for several years. This is somebody who I worked with back in my consumer product goods days, and was somebody who we spent a brief amount of time working in the same department, but have always kept in touch. And I had a really good feeling that they were going to want to be a part of this thing. And so when I pitched it to them, I wasn't doubtful that they would say no, and was very happy to hear when they said not only yes, but what can I do? So 2 board members in, 2 yeses, I was starting to feel real confident. So I went and once again retweaked my deck, made some changes, made some updates, and sent it out to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th person that I wanted to invite onto the board. I was happy to receive a response from everyone within 24 to 48 hours. I mean, not only were people saying, yes, let's do it, but let's get on the phone, let's talk about it, I'd like to learn more. And as I pitched them and explained to them what I wanted to do, they were very enthusiastic. So that's where things stand today. I've sent invites out to all of my board. I've explained to them the equity share that they would have in this company that I'm creating. And even though I have one more person that I am waiting to hear back from to determine whether they're going to be on the board or not, as I sit here today and record this podcast, I'm readying for our first board meeting to happen at the end of the week. And I'll be recording that meeting not to only share with you some of the things that come out of that meeting, but to also give you a little bit of perspective of how the team comes together. Now, just so you know, for confidentiality reasons, I can't share every bit of the conversation that we have, but I am going to share the most important things that I think are ready for release. So right now I'm feeling good. I think the energy for things is quite high. I've secured the domain names for DissedMedia, and I've actually secured 2 domain names, Dissed being the slang for disrespected, D-I-S-S-E-D, but also secured D-I-S-E-D just in case somebody spells it wrong. But the idea and the domain name, that's kind of the low-hanging fruit. There is so much left to do. I need to register the business. I need to incorporate. I need to distribute shares. I need to secure an email account. I need to think about what the online media is going to look like. And I also need to think about what future podcast episodes are going to sound like. I also need to think about monetization. How are we going to earn money? How are we going to put content out there and get people to be interested in it? And this is where having a board is going to be very helpful. I have a few people with some really good insights around media, but I've also got some good people who are going to be content creators as well. So in our next episode, as we start our board meeting and start discussing some of these hot topics, I'm going to bring you into those conversations so that you can have a listen to see how things get formulated. And as we go along this journey, I'm hoping to hear from you guys as well. As you listen to this podcast, if you have any questions, any thoughts, any feedback, by all means, feel free to let us know. You'll find a recap of each episode and show notes on DissedMedia.com. And I'm looking forward to hearing about what you guys think. What am I not sharing? What more could I share that would help you? And what are your thoughts about our progress? So for now, I appreciate you guys checking out this episode. I look forward to you coming back and listening to how we grow. And I hope maybe we can be an inspiration for you to start your own business as well. Until next time, this is Ben Olmos. Adios, y'all.